Hello, and welcome to Ending Physician Overwhelm. I'm your host, Dr. Megan Mello. I'm a family and obesity medicine physician, as well as a certified life coach for physicians. In this podcast, we talk about how the learned habits of people-pleasing, perfectionism, and a lack of boundaries show up in our lives and how they contribute to burnout, exhaustion, and overwhelm. The healthcare system is broken, my friends, but let's not wait for it to be fixed in order to feel better. Well, hello, my friends. I'm just going to jump right in here and say thank you. You see, in preparing for this week's episode, which, spoiler alert, is going to be about gratitude, I was thinking all morning about what am I actually going to say? And how do we teach folks to practice gratitude? And in so doing, I found myself going back to the thought model, which includes, sort of axes of thoughts, feelings, actions. We're going to get back to that. And in preparing, I found myself just kind of going right into gratitude practice without, any formality. So I actually spent the morning feeling pretty grateful. And as I was doing that, I just started sort of knocking out different chores, getting ready for the week as I usually do on Sunday, but it just made everything so much easier. So thank you. Thank you for listening to today's episode. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for continuing to show up for yourself. And I think today is going to be a really good one. So if you are just joining us for the first time, welcome. We are on week 8. I had to go back and count where we are on week 8 of the 10-week stress reduction challenge. This is designed specifically for women physicians, and my goal for you is to help give you little intentional practices that you can start weaving in to help you stress less and enjoy life more. Now, if you, have been here for a minute, and I know we've had many conversations about the challenges in healthcare. And frankly, I don't think it's going to get any easier anytime soon. As we are recording this, as you're listening to this at the end of 2025, Congress continues to fight about, the insurance issues that are coming up of whether they're going to continue government subsidies. What's at stake here is huge. And I don't even know all the details of it, but what I can tell you that we're looking at in the United States is whether or not healthcare is going to be more expensive, including for people who have employment insurance, but also for everyone else. And that doesn't even translate into more money in your pocket. You are not going to be paid more for doing the same services that you are doing. I'm imagining, right, that this money actually flows pretty freely into the insurance's pockets because that is, kind of the system we have here in the United States. So we're in this time where we know very clearly that our patients are going to be paying more, most likely, for their health insurance and all the downstream consequences of that. And we couldn't even tell you where that money was going, even though I'm sure many of us will have conversations with our patients about how we are not benefiting directly from any of that at all. That's really aside, but just to acknowledge, right, that the challenges within healthcare are very real. Just in that one little example, I know that we are going to be facing more moral injury because we are going to continue to be asked to do more with less, despite these things going on. And again, even though there is zero direct benefit, I would say there's probably more harm at stake here. We know that we are going to see people lose insurance. We know that we are going to be in that end of the year crunch anyway, where people have met their deductibles and they're trying to get all the things. There are so many pieces here. We know the vaccine issues that are coming up with our anti-vax government currently trying to roll back policies that are going to directly harm patients, right? There are many things going on. So you might ask, why are we choosing to practice gratitude this week? Because even with those things going on, we can help ourselves by leaning into gratitude. And we are not going to have false gratitude. We are not going to be Pollyannish. We are going to tune our bodies and our minds into what is good right here, right now, on a more regular basis, because that helps to enhance our resilience. So, again, we're in week 8 of the stress reduction challenge. A lot of what we're talking about is influenced by the book, The Telomere Effect, which talks about the direct effects of stress on our cells, specifically as well on our DNA. The telomeres, you can go back to other episodes and hear more about that. But when we practice gratitude, we are going to spend more time in the emotion of feeling grateful, right? Gratitude is a noun, grateful as as an adjective. I'm going to be talking about them a little bit interchangeably. I'm also going to be throwing out the word thankful. And we're going to see those as kind of interchangeable. I want to ask you first, how often, or maybe just even the last time, someone expressed gratitude towards you and you did not receive it at all? This might be an instance where you had a patient who was incredibly grateful for something that you did. And you, as a human person who is providing care for this patient in a broken healthcare system, were feeling resentful, irritable, frustrated, angry, burned out, exhausted, right? Overwhelmed, any number of other emotions. This person in front of you is expressing gratitude and you cannot receive it because you are deep in something else. I want to highlight this because it's really important that we understand what is going on there in order to do something different. And I'm going to share the example of, this is probably, oh gosh, 6 or 7 years ago now. I was really trying to climb out of burnout. I was really exhausted. I was really overwhelmed. There were so many things going on, young children at home, a very stressful work environment with pretty toxic leadership, and things weren't going well. And I was doing the best that I could, trying to manage the stress. And I would lean into different things at different times, trying to really feel better, right? Trying to figure out what was wrong with me, because I definitely saw it as a me problem. But, at that time, I stumbled across the research on gratitude, and I really tried. I really tried to have a gratitude journal. I tried to write things down every day. But here's the thing. I was not feeling grateful at all. I was not receiving gratitude from other people, even though gratitude was being expressed. I can absolutely look back and I know that people were grateful for the things that I was doing for them. I was not feeling grateful for my circumstances, right? I was not really practicing gratitude. I was trying to write down every day 3 things that were good in the day, but I was so burned out and exhausted at the time that the things that would be written down would be like, well, I liked my coffee this morning, and I'm grateful that I didn't quit my job today. They were so cynical. And again, I laugh because I can look back at that version of me with so much compassion. She was doing the best that she could. And if that resonates with you, if you're in that place right now, I just want to give you a hug, because you are probably I know that you're doing the best that you can. And, this practice here, I think, will still be helpful, because I want you to see the relationship between all of these elements that we're going to talk about. But I also just want to acknowledge that this gratitude practice by itself does not fix the complicated thoughts and difficult emotions that are going on when you're that deep in burnout. But I think it's really important that we highlight here the relationship between our thoughts and our feelings and how that influences what we do. So if you have been with me for a while, then we've talked about the thought model. The 5-part thought model that comes out of the life coach school is influenced by a number of different disciplines, including cognitive behavioral therapy and Byron Katie's work. There are a lot of things that we could talk about. The thought model has 5 components: circumstances, thoughts, feelings, actions, results. Really, when we are trying to work on figuring out what is going on, I think the most bang for the buck is to really focus on our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, right? And there are a number of other tools out there that really highlight these, but our thoughts influence how we feel. Our feelings drive what we do, right? If we are feeling overwhelmed, right, our actions are going to come out of that emotion of overwhelm, right? We might be pushing on the coffee, we might be numbing out with our phones. We're definitely going to be tuned out from those, kind of around us. When we are feeling grateful, right? When we are feeling grateful, we are going to be acting more generously. We are probably going to be more present and tuned into the other person that we're with, right? We can acknowledge, right, that when we feel an emotion, that influences what we actually do. But what we often fail to realize is how our thoughts influence our emotions. And that is especially true when it comes to feeling grateful. So I can remember sitting with patients who were very grateful for my care, right? They were grateful that we had a good connection. They were grateful to, come in and get the help that they wanted. And they would express their gratitude towards me. And I would be sitting there, again, having my human emotions, feeling overwhelmed, feeling frustrated and resentful because I didn't feel like I was getting the help that I needed and the support in order to take care of the large number of humans that I had to take care of. My thoughts were in the room, and my thoughts were what contributed to me not being able to feel the gratitude coming towards me, right? Because as people were expressing thankfulness, my thoughts would have been, yeah, you're really grateful to be here, and I'm drowning. You're grateful, and meanwhile, I'm putting in so much extra work because my institution does not support me, right? Thinking I don't have enough help to take care of you. Thoughts about, they're grateful, I'm drowning, and thinking that I need to be drowning in order to provide the care that they're grateful to have, right? There are a lot of complicated thoughts that lead to what we are feeling. And when we are having a lot of negative thoughts, which we are not going to judge ourselves for, that influences, right? That creates our emotional state, and our emotional state then influences what we do, right? When I'm feeling resentful and frustrated, I was still overworking, but I was maintaining a state where nothing felt good, where I couldn't receive the gratitude from someone else, right? Where I was just constantly cranky and exhausted and numbing out and not present with my family, right? And just reinforcing the thought over and over and over again that this is what it took to be a good doctor, right? No wonder things felt so hard from that period. And if any of that resonates with you, as I, know it has resonated with other people, let's just pause and give ourselves a great big hug and say, this is really hard. It is hard to be stuck in that. You are so normal if that has happened to you, if it's happening to you right now. This is such a deep part of the struggle that we face as physicians, as caregivers, as people, with a servant heart working in a broken healthcare system that is very happy to let us overwork, that institutionalizes us overworking, and mitigates financial and business loss by having us continue to overwork, right? It is a whole system. If we can step back from that if we can start to recognize our own humanity in this, right? If we can look at our thoughts and our emotions and the actions that come out of that and see that as a dynamic thing that we can influence, right? That changes everything. It is not a one and done. It is not something that we can always do by ourselves. I certainly did not get to where I am by myself. I have had help along the way. It's taken a long time, although not 6 or 7 years. I've definitely been in a better place since, way before then. But each of us as humans needs time, support, and self compassion in order to make progress along these lines, right? But just to say, if you are right now feeling very stuck, if you are feeling like, yeah, those words all sound really nice, but I can't even begin to think how I would get there. My friends, please reach out and get help. As you know, I am a coach. I do this work with people, and I'm happy, happy, happy to support you if I am not the right person for you. If you are in need of, more comprehensive help with a therapist, with a mental health practitioner, right? Get the help that you deserve. It is so important. And I will tell you right now that an artificial gratitude practice where you're just going through the motions is not what we are going to do here. It is not going to help. You need more support than that. For people who are not really deep in that stage, right? Who are able to, kind of step back and sit back and see themselves as separate enough from the burdens of the healthcare system that we are taking care of ourselves. This is where gratitude practice can become incredibly useful because it just empowers you to be in this place where you get to experience the emotion of gratitude and similar emotions more frequently. It helps you. It helps you to show up for the challenges that are here. It helps you to literally take care of your own health, from the health of your brain and emotional health. We know that gratitude helps to decrease depression and anxiety. We know that it helps to take care of other organs. The Nurses' Health Study, this big observational study that's been going on for a long time, published some research about 10 years ago that was showing the benefit. Actually, it was published more recently than that, this particular finding, but showed that those participants who had active gratitude practices and were actively grateful for a number of circumstances in their lives had improvements in mortality compared to those who did not, right? Again, that's an observational study, but there have been other studies that have been randomized controlled. The literature is robust. When we spend more time in gratitude, feeling grateful, feeling thankful, expressing that towards other people, we have better health. We have lower cardiovascular disease. I did not look to see if we have lower diabetes. I'm going to guess that we do, but don't quote me on that one. We have better mental health. We can look at studies on emotional resilience. I'm sure there is a robust amount of literature, which I won't belabor here, but just to say there are very real effects. And we can look at those sort of organ system and sort of a mental and emotional health, but we can also look at the cellular level, right, which is where we're getting to with this book, The Telomere Effect. When we have more positive and more resilient emotional states and thoughts, right, we have better cellular health. We don't have to make it more complicated than that. It makes sense, right, that when our stress levels are lower, that we have less damage, that we have adequate repair mechanisms that can overcome stress. We are able to better ride things. That is not all or nothing, right? But every step that we take to, help to combat some of the stress that we feel is helping to support our health at so many different levels. It should be obvious, but it's not. So, what can we start to do? Understanding this pattern, right? That our thoughts create our emotions, that drives our actions, right? And knowing that if I can figure out how to create the emotion of grateful or thankful, that is something that I can then go and recreate over and over again, right? I can make that a more regular part of my day, and that will influence the actions that I take, right? You can see that there are very real reasons to want to do this that have nothing to do with just being positive. Just try and think yourself happy. No, we are doing very real intentional work here, and we can start very small. So, as you are listening to this right now, I want you to just think about the last time that you were feeling grateful. Let's just say spontaneously grateful for something. You might have taken a sip of your coffee and thought, "Oh, that tastes, that tastes really good." You might have received a hug from a small child, or something that you just really sort of cherished, right? And in that moment, you just really felt it, right? What was that thing that created that emotion of grateful? So think about what was going on in that moment, and think about, what was my thought about that? If somebody was hugging you and you just noticed that emotion of grateful, right? Your thoughts have something to do with, that feels good. This person loves me. I have support, right? It has something to do with that vein, right? You weren't thinking this person is awful, or this person smells bad, or I wish I wasn't here, and then feeling the emotion of grateful. Those two things don't go together, my friends, right? Something some thought has to be there in order for us to feel the emotion of grateful. What was that? You know, um, we need to be able to identify that so that we can practice thinking those thoughts more often, right? Because if you can identify, oh, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for this warm cup of coffee in front of me, right? Then we can identify, oh, I really like having something warm. I really like taking a pause and smelling and tasting and appreciating that this is going to give me some energy, right? Whatever those things are. What do we do when we're feeling grateful, right? What did you do when you had that spontaneous emotion of grateful? Again, I'm asking you to look back and reflect on something, and you can just think, oh, yeah, when I received the hug from somebody, I leaned into it and I just paused and I took a deep breath. And when I stepped back from the hug, maybe I said thank you. Maybe we stayed and talked for longer. Maybe that was a hug from my child and I said, let's go read a book together, right? There were positive things that came out of that because you were feeling grateful. So you can really see, kind of this relationship, thought, feeling, action. And if we want to feel more of that, then we need to sort of think about, all right, what are the things that I'm grateful for? Gratitude practices, there are so many out there, but they take a lot of different shapes and they can be very simple. You can pause right now, pause the podcast, right? And think, what am I grateful for right now in this moment? Maybe you're out on a walk listening to me and you can, hear some birds chirping, or now it's December, so you probably don't have flowers out there, except where I live, we have a lot of daphne bushes that do bloom in the winter and they smell amazing, right? So if I was near one and took a deep whiff, I would be grateful for that smell because it's one of my favorite smells. You might be grateful that you have taken the time to get out on a walk, right? That you've taken the time to move your body and have some time to listen to a podcast that interests you in some way. Um, if you're driving, you could be grateful that you have a car that works. You could be grateful again for the coffee that you had this morning on the way to work. You could be grateful that you had a busy day and you are now heading home, hopefully to people or for babies that you love, right? What are you grateful for right now? Sometimes people will do the written gratitude practice, right? Grab a journal, write down three things that you're grateful for every day. Sometimes people will practice saying thank you out loud, thank you as an act of gratitude. There are many different ways. Loving kindness meditation is another one. And one thing that I really, really love about that practice in particular is that it starts with you. You start the loving kindness meditation by thanking yourself, right? May I be at peace. May I be safe. Um, there are many different versions of it. Then you expand it to somebody that you love, that you're close to. Then you expand it to somebody that you're not as close to, or maybe a group of people that you just wish well. You can take it beyond and you can go towards, kind of the world at large, or you can direct it at someone that you don't get along with so well. Maybe you can express gratitude for them and still have some healthy boundaries. I've found that to be really helpful myself, that I can wish them well as a person and hope to continue to have nothing to do with them, continue to practice boundaries with them, continue to keep my interactions with them as short as possible, right? I'm still getting to feel grateful when I do that, though, even though, I'm sort of wishing them well. I'm also sitting in the gratefulness of that's a much nicer emotion than to be sitting there thinking gross thoughts about them, thinking, that they're terrible people or frustrated with them. Um, and that's I'm just going to say I've found that to be a much nicer way to live, right, than frankly what I grew up with, which is just a lot of snarky, sort of gossiping, judgmental things, which, unfortunately, a lot of us grow up in that environment. Um, but wanting to feel grateful more often, right? We can practice something like that, and again, direct it towards someone or something that we don't enjoy, but to do so in a way that allows us to feel grateful. I feel grateful that health insurance exists. Now, you've heard me talk many, many, many times about the just terrible challenges of the insurance-based healthcare system in the United States, right? There are so many complicated factors there, and um, we don't have to sugarcoat it. And yet, I am grateful that we do have this mechanism that allows a lot of people to come and get some care, that allows them to be able to afford at least some parts of care, right? That offers at least some coverage for care when people, can't afford insurance, right? There's kind of a lot of things. I can be grateful for the parts that I'm grateful for without needing to, fix or bitch about the stuff that doesn't work, right? The avenues where people don't get care, that people don't get the right care, that they don't have good access, right? I can leave all of those things aside and choose to be grateful that it does help for some things. And I'd rather spend my energy there, right, than 100% of the time in my usual thoughts about health insurance. So that gives you some different things that you can try for the week. What I want you to do is I want you to figure out for this week's challenge, how will I choose to spend some more time feeling grateful? I'd love for you to direct a little bit towards yourself. I want you to be grateful to yourself for, being able to go out for a walk, to spending time with people that you love, for, if you're getting ready for the holidays, that, that there is just a joy in the air, right? I want you to direct some of it towards yourself. I want you to direct some of it towards people that are close to you, and maybe some of it to strangers or people that you're not terribly close to. We can do this in so many ways. Again, you can do a gratitude journal. You can just decide that you're going to pause every so often in your day and just think, what's good right here, right now that I'm grateful for? What am I grateful to myself for? You might practice loving kindness meditation. You might, take a moment in between patients and just choose to lean into gratitude. I know for myself, so as I've shared before, I work in a model where I don't have a medical assistant, I don't have a nurse, so I room my own patients. As I step out of my exam room to go and get my next patient, I find myself, and my exam room is just a tiny bit away from the lobby. So I step out of my exam room. I practice giving a quick smile. I don't even think about it anymore. I put a smile on my face so that no matter what my thoughts were, in sort of going out to grab the next patient, there is a smile on my face when I actually step to the lobby to go call them back, right? And I don't say, sorry for your wait. I say, thank you for your patience. Come on back. That is an active micro gratitude practice. I didn't invent it, right? But it is something that helps to create a good experience no matter what's going to happen in the room. Similarly, when we're doing telehealth, and we use a HIPAA compliant Zoom in my office, as I am admitting the patient, onto the Zoom room, I put a smile on my face and I can actually see myself smiling right in the camera. That is a little micro practice, and it does help my day to go better. Some days it's a little bit harder than other days, but these little things make a big difference. So in the idea of us wanting to spend more time feeling grateful, I want you to think, which of these things are you going to start doing? You can pick more than one. You can pick just one. Doesn't matter. You might pause outside of the exam room before you go in and just put a smile on your face. Let's try not a fake smile, right? Let's try not gritting our teeth. I've definitely been there, done that. But just put a smile on your face and then walk in. Again, if you're feeling terribly burned out, that is not where I want you to start. I want you to reach out and get help. You can definitely connect with me. You can reach me, Megan, MEGAN, at healthierforgood.com. You can go to my website, which is www.healthierforgood.com. You can reach out to anyone who's on your mental health support team. You can reach out to find a coach, to find someone to support you in helping to feel better. It is so incredibly important. But if we add these little practices on too, I'm not going to say that it is sufficient, right, to get us out of burnout, but I'm going to say I think these things are necessary as part of the picture to help us feel better, to help us have good days, to help us take care of our health, right? We are going to spend more time feeling grateful. All right, my friends, that is what I have for you today. As I mentioned, this is week 8 of the Stress Reduction Challenge for Women Physicians. You can go back to October 28th. That was episode 200. That's where we kicked things off. We have now tackled some yoga nidra, which is a sleep meditation. We have incorporated more greens into our diet for all the benefits that they confer. We have worked on our breath. We have worked on our sleep. We have incorporated more laughter into our day. We have added berries and rhythmic movement. And this week, we are adding gratitude. My friends, thank you as always for listening. I'm grateful that you're here. Until next week, take care. Well, that's our show for today. Thank you as always for listening. To learn more about my coaching programs, head to www.healthierforgood.com. And if you love this podcast, please drop us a review on iTunes or support the show by clicking the link in the show notes. Until next time, take care.